So the Chiefs basically abandoned the run game, went up multiple scores against the Browns as Mahomes took hit after hit and eventually got injured as a result of trying to pass the ball nearly 40 times. Well, in today's video, I'll talk about why this confused so many as I dive into the main takeaways from this game, give an update on Mahomes' ankle, as well as a veteran running back getting waived from the roster today, presumably to make room for Hollywood Brown. But first, how about those? All right, there is a lot to dive into today regarding this very weird game against the Cleveland Browns, in which the defense absolutely dominated while the offense had some moments for sure, but overall, it was a confusing day on that front, to say the least. Joe Thuney did end up playing at the left tackle spot, with Mike Caliendo filling in at the left guard spot, because DJ Humphries was sidelined with a hamstring injury, and they did not feel comfortable enough with having Wanya Morris out there as the left tackle. And honestly, Thuney and Caliendo did a pretty good job, all things considered. Thuney wasn't perfect. He gave up 10 pressures and 2 QB hits on the day, which did lead the team by quite a bit. But it seemed like on plays where it mattered, Mahomes did have more time, at least from the left side, to throw, even though the offense kind of soiled their joggers, all things considered in this one. I do want to give flowers, though, to Mike Caliendo. He allowed 0 pressures and had the highest pass blocking grade on the entire O-line. That's honestly incredible, considering this was his first ever career start, and if he can build on that, the Chiefs might have an answer, maybe, at the guard spot in the future if they are unable to retain both Joe Thuney and Trey Smith for years to come, but that is a topic for a later day in another video entirely. Let's get into this game. The Browns ended up winning the opening coin toss and deferred, with Kelce actually appearing to be in pain after the very first catch of the game. He ended up running into the chain gang's first down marker, but thankfully reappeared back on the field shortly after that. Now, KC did instantly go 3 and out, something they would do quite a bit in this game. But on the opening punt, Christian Roland Wallace knocked the ball out, and Samaje Perine recovered to give the offense the ball back with incredible field position. And just 3 short plays later, Juju Smith-Schuster went in motion pre-snap, getting the edge, and Mahomes flipped him a quick pass with Juju diving like Superman for the first score of the game. That was pretty freaking awesome. Jameis Winston was sacked 5 times in this one, but it should have been 6, because this sack on the opening drive for Cleveland was negated by an illegal hands to the face penalty, I believe it was, on Joshua Williams. All good, though, because George Karlaftis chased Winston down from behind to force their first punt of the day. From there, Kareem Hunt got his first carry of the game, and he went for a solid 12 yards, clearly amped up to be facing off against his former team, which was cool to see. Then on 3rd and 4, Mahomes took a deep shot to Justin Watson in double coverage. That honestly wasn't really close, and the result was another punt. Many pointed out that Xavier Worthy seemed to be open on the shallow crosser, and that probably would have helped move the chains there, but it was a miss from Mahomes. Jerry Jeudy converted a big 3rd and 10 for 17 yards with Joshua Williams trailing in coverage, and did more damage a couple plays later for 13 more, but then Jameis Winston activated Lamar Jackson in the playoffs mode and threw into double coverage, with safety Brian Cook high-pointing it in the end zone for the first interception of many in this game. Mahomes then missed Kelce for a big gain, and they ultimately had to punt yet again, where 4 straight 3 and outs proceeded to take place from both teams. George Karlaftis got his second sack on Winston, chasing him down once again from behind via a bit of a coverage sack. Myles Garrett almost picked off Mahomes on a failed screen attempt, and Mahomes was then a tick off with Xavier Worthy for the first, resulting in their third 3 and out already in this game. So with 11 minutes to go in the second quarter still, there had already been 7 punts, but this time Mahomes and company got some momentum going thanks to Kelce and Pacheco catching passes, with Hunt barreling his way to midfield. D-Hop made a hell of a contested catch here before Mahomes scrambled for the first on 3rd and 10, and eventually found a wide open Noah Gray in the end zone because he had like 5 seconds in the pocket. Well, that's because Myles Garrett got hurt on the play and needed medical attention. I think Joe Thuney's thumb poked him in the eye, and Joe Thuney felt bad, man. He was checking on him on the sideline, and he even checked on him again after the game. Either way, Myles Garrett did end up returning, but was clearly shook up on that one. That made it 14-0, Chiefs up 2 scores, and Trent McDuffie then had an incredible pass breakup here. Then another defensive back got struck with some bad luck, taking a knee to the side of the head while trying to make a tackle on Nick Chubb, and that was Chamarri Conner. Got hit and was out cold on the field. He was eventually helped off the field, but never returned and is in the concussion protocol with his status of playing Saturday against the Texans up in the air on a short week like this. The secondary rotation after this was interesting if you look at the snap counts. Jaden Hicks outsnapped Brian Cook by 2. Najee Johnson played 37. Roland Wallace then played 17. So a bit of an interesting mixed bag of defensive backs in this one. But speaking of Najee, he almost picked off a Winston pass on 4th down, but thankfully he didn't haul it in because a turnover on downs at that spot is much better field position than where they would have been had Najee actually picked him off. Regardless, it was a nice PBU there. And after KC took over, P. Ryan helped them march down the field thanks to a nicely called screen pass for 23 yards. A pop pass to Worthy got them up near the 10-yard line, but unfortunately, Hunt was blown up in the backfield on 3rd and 1, and KC opted to kick a field goal there. A chip shot of a 29-yarder to get KC up, in theory, 17-0 at the half. Well, the problem is, Butker missed it. There was some apparent confusion after the Chiefs thought about going for it during a timeout, and Butker ended up shanking it left. He was just brought back from IR a day before the game, and while he made all his extra points on the day, all 3 of them, this was a very rare miss of a field goal for what is normally automatic Harrison Butker. I also want to point out that for the second week in a row, safety Justin Reed was handling kickoff duties. They are ramping Butker up still and didn't want him out there on kickoffs, and Justin Reed not only handled things pretty well, but he's also another guy out there that can make some tackles. Anyway, from here, I got to get into the very confusing, complexing second half, talk about Mahomes' ankle injury and how things look for KC on a short week as they are actually currently underdogs against the Texans. But first, if you're looking for a premium mattress designed to upgrade your sleep, improve your overall quality of life, and is also conveniently shipped to your front door for free, then look no further than to the longest active sponsor of the channel, Bear Mattress. They have a lot of great end-of-year sales going on right now, so head to bearmattress.com/HBTC for more details. My wife and I have personally had our mattress for more than 2 years now, which has been great for my low back pain, and we loved ours so much that we even got a Bear Cub mattress for our youngest daughter a few months back, and she's been borderline hibernating ever since. Bear knows everybody has different preferences and sleep positions, which is why there's an online quiz you can take to help remove all the guesswork. I sleep on my back and prefer a medium firmness to my mattress, but my wife sleeps on her stomach and prefers a mattress that's more firm, and that's why Bear matched us up with the Elite Hybrid mattress to benefit us both, and after 2 years, we are still sleeping fantastic. Our experience was just like yours would be after ordering. Both of these mattresses were shipped in a nice little box to our front door. Again, shipping is free in the US, and they were super easy to unbox and unroll, and if you tend to sleep hot like me, this is clutch. Bear's sleep recovery technology uses Celliant-powered fabric to help you stay cool throughout the night. And unlike other brands, Bear mattresses also do not contain fiberglass, which can be detrimental to your health, and are also Green Guard Gold certified and Certi Pure US certified, so you can sleep safely and soundly knowing there will be no harmful off-gassing. On top of that, Bear mattresses have a lifetime warranty and even offer financing options and flexible payment plans. And if it makes you nervous to buy something that you haven't tried, Bear actually has a 120-night sleep trial, so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. I certainly love my quality of sleep with Bear Mattress, and I think you will too. So if you're looking to upgrade your sleep, go to bearmattress.com/HBTC to get 35% off a Bear mattress for a limited time. Now, the second half of the game was an interesting one because the first 2 offensive plays for Cleveland ended up being turnovers. Famous Jameis threw an interception on the first play of the third quarter, and honestly, it was kind of a weird interception as Winston's pass bounced off the hands of running back Nick Chubb, and somehow Nick Bolton was able to wrestle it away from him on the way to the ground and got the takeaway, the third Cleveland turnover of the game, with many more to come. Worthy had a hell of a catch from a scrambling Patrick Mahomes on 2nd and 6, and after Kareem Hunt moved the chains, Worthy caught what I thought was a quick pass left side and bolted 21 yards up the field for the quick strike to make it 21-0. It was actually a run, technically a backwards pass, so he's credited with a rushing touchdown there. But either way, this put KC up 21-0, a very rare thing. The biggest lead for the Kansas City Chiefs all season long, I believe it was. And it was actually kind of nice. Something that was not so nice was at some point in the second half, Browns running back Nick Chubb pulled up limping during a play and never returned. And it was revealed after the game that he broke something in his foot and is out for the rest of the season, which you hate to see because he's one of those guys that has just struggled with a bunch of injuries, including the gruesome knee injury he recovered from last year. Before he left the game, though, talking about Nick Chubb, he ended up fumbling on the Browns' second offensive play of the third quarter, thanks to Leo Chanel. He perfectly punched the ball out here, and Drew Tranquill ended up recovering. So again, in 2 offensive plays for Cleveland in the second half, they had an INT and a fumble. Shortly after this, DeAndre Hopkins almost made an absolutely ridiculous catch deep down the left sideline with the ball barely scraping the ground, popping up into the air, and D-Hop ended up corralling it. The Chiefs challenged it, but they ultimately lost the challenge because, again, the ball scraped the grass, and they had to punt. Jeudy caught several passes on Cleveland's next drive, but Charles Omenihu made a hell of a play here, chopping the ball like a karate master out of Winston's hand on 3rd and 5, and while the Browns did end up recovering that football, they lost 10 yards and had to punt. After this, KC immediately punted the ball right back, but Matt Araiza had a pretty awful 30-yard punt, which was helped in a bad way by a unfortunate bounce. Turk Wharton thankfully was able to sack Jameis Winston, though, mainly due to Chris Jones completely blowing the play up. And that set up a 2nd and 23, which I'm over here like, nice, this is going to be another Cleveland punt. But instead, Jerome Ford took the handoff out of shotgun 62 yards all the way to the house, the biggest play the Chiefs defense has given up on the ground, and that was rather unfortunate. His speed helped him take off up the right sideline. Nazi was blocked out by Jerry Jeudy, making a good block, and Roland Wallace was unable to get the angle. And that was all she wrote on that one. And with that, the Chiefs were still up 14 points. This is where things got a little confusing to me. They had several drives when they were up 21-0 or 14-0. And in this 4-drive span, they ran 15 plays for a total of 10 yards. And out of those 15 plays, they ran the ball just 3 times, with Mahomes at one point throwing 8 straight incompletions. Andy said the runs weren't doing much in those 3 runs in particular. Yeah, they didn't do too much, but the problem with all the passes is twofold. One, it took virtually no time off the clock, which is the opposite of what you want to do when up multiple scores in the second half. And 2, Mahomes was getting pressured left and right. You'll see how much it actually was at the end of this game. He was getting pressured left and right and was also starting to get pretty beat up. On the last 3 and out, for example, Mahomes was hit pretty hard on back-to-back plays, basically getting leveled on that 3rd down, and was a little slow to get up. And before I get to the part where Mahomes actually did get injured, Cleveland started marching down the field after another 3 and out from KC thanks to a forward screen pass for 26 yards, but Trent McDuffie picked Jameis Winston off a few plays later in the end zone, making an incredible play and recording his first ever career NFL interception. And get this, Trent McDuffie said part of the reason why he knew the ball was coming his way was because he looked up at the Jumbotron and noticed Winston was throwing the ball in his direction, and that caused McDuffie to turn around, make a play for the ball, and boom! First ever career interception locked in. It was an awesome play by the star cornerback, but just a little crazy. He got some help from the Jumbotron on that one. That interception got Jameis Winston benched, by the way, his 3rd of the day, with Dorian Thompson-Robinson taking his place on their next drive. But that McDuffie pick gave the offense back the ball once again, and they did finally find a little momentum here on this drive. D-Hop made an incredible grab on 3rd and 3, holding on to it for the first. Mahomes then scrambled up in the pocket on the next 3rd down, firing one to Noah Gray for 15 yards. Absolutely clutch. However, they couldn't convert on this next 3rd and 3, and since they were out of field goal range, they wanted to try and convert on 4th down. Andy Reid said he felt like they had a good play drawn up for it, and that would also keep the clock running in the 4th quarter. You only had 8 minutes left in the game after all. Well, Mahomes stepped up in the pocket to make a pass, hopping up as he tried to unsuccessfully target Juju Smith-Schuster, and Mahomes got hit awkwardly, even folded a bit with a Browns defender launching at his helmet, and Mahomes came up limping, noticeably in pain. He went to the sideline and got his ankles taped up, ready to potentially go back out there, but after Cleveland couldn't convert on 4th down due to a penalty negating a 1st down catch by Woods, they opted instead to have Carson Wentz come out and finish the game. The offense did manage to go 6 plays for 24 yards on Wentz's first drive, but Araiza was brought back out on 4th and 3 for his 9th punt of the game, which is insanely rare for a Chiefs punter. DTR then tried to get a Browns drive going, but overthrew his target with the rookie safety Jaden Hicks picking him off to seal the game. And while it was finally a game in which the Chiefs won by more than one score, I think Mahomes' ankle injury kind of overshadowed the fact that KC moved to 13-1 on the season. I'll touch more on Mahomes' ankle here in a moment, but first I wanted to give props and praise to the Chiefs' defense. They held the Browns to just 7 points. That's the lowest of the entire season for them, and heading into this game over the last 4 weeks, they were averaging 21 points per game, and KC's defense just dominated. They picked Winston off 3 times, DTR 1 more after Winston got benched. They also sacked Winston 5 times and forced a fumble on Nick Chubb. They actually almost got another fumble via the Minihue strip sack, but they were able to recover. But that's 5 takeaways on defense alone. Then, of course, an extra one on special teams via that Roland Wallace punch-out. The Browns were just 4 for 12 on third downs and never even made it into the red zone. So aside from that one broken play where Ford ran for like 62 yards and a touchdown, the defense completely shut this game down. Karlaftis had 2 sacks on the day, and the defense as a whole created pressure on 56.1% of the Browns' dropbacks, which was the highest pressure rate on the season for the Chiefs' defense. So credit where credit is due. The defense played lights out, even adjusting well to Chamarri Conner, sadly getting concussed. On offense, Mahomes was just 19 for 38 for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. The fact that they were up the majority of this game and Mahomes still had to drop back to throw 38 times is pretty wild to me. And while I already gave props to Tooney and Caliendo earlier on in this video, that didn't mean Mahomes was perfectly shielded all day. In fact, Mahomes faced the highest pressure rate in a game since 2020, getting pressured on 54% of his dropbacks. That's why I was frustrated with the run game seemingly getting abandoned, with Mahomes getting pressured 25 times and hit 11 times. No sacks were recorded in this game for the first time in several weeks. But what does that matter if Mahomes got banged up in the process? Absolutely nothing. Andy Reid said after the game he could do a better job taking care of business on his end in the third quarter, giving players better options. He said they will get that taken care of and he'll clean that up. But when asked about all the pass plays, given the fact that they led basically all game long, Andy said the run game wasn't working at times, and in this league, you've got to be able to throw the ball. But just 6 runs out of 22 plays went up 21 or 14 points when Mahomes at one point threw 8 straight incompletions. That's insane and made for a rather frustrating watch. Something else that was frustrating was the offense not being able to take further advantage of all the takeaways the defense collected. KC had 15 drives on the day and scored on just 3 of them. Butker did miss a gimme field goal on one series, so can't really put that one on the offense. I would have liked to see them go for it on 4th and 1 within the 10-yard line, but it is what it is. Then 9 punts for Ariza is a lot, considering he was coming into the game averaging 3 a game. 6 of those drives from the offense were also 3 and outs, so just very uncharacteristic for an offense that is normally elite, number 1 in the NFL at converting on third downs. They were just 7 for 18 in this one, and there's definitely things to improve upon in the final stretch of the regular season before the playoffs hit. The good news is they will get Hollywood Brown back either this week or next, then maybe even DJ Humphries as well if his hamstring heals up. But even with the return of Hollywood Brown to help open things up, Mahomes still seems uncomfortable throwing the ball down the field. He was off on multiple deep passes yesterday, and maybe it's because he's got PTSD from getting hit so much. Obviously uncomfortable in the pocket. Maybe he's not on the same page with his receiver based on the coverage. Maybe he knows he typically doesn't have the time for the play to develop, or maybe he's just missing the throw. Some even say his mechanics look off. Whatever the reason is, the deep ball for KC is virtually non-existent. His last deep ball that was completed was week 4 against the Chargers for that 54-yard strike to Xavier Worthy. Before we worry about the deep ball and all that, Mahomes needs to get this ankle healed up first and foremost. And before I dive into that entire situation and all the updates I have around it, I do want to shout out some pass catchers here. Noah Gray had his 5th touchdown on the year. D-Hop continues to catch basically everything thrown his way. And Xavier Worthy not only had 6 catches, which led the room for 46 yards, but he also had 3 carries for 30 yards and a touchdown. I thought he would have a breakout game and was honestly one deep catch away from that truly happening. it was still a solid performance from him either way, and he is definitely on the rise. Worthy is actually just the 5th receiver in NFL history to tally 3 or more rushing touchdowns and 3 or more receiving touchdowns as a rookie, which is pretty awesome. Now, let's get into Mahomes' ankle injury. The severity of his ankle injury initially was tough to know during his post-game presser, with Mahomes saying he would know more tomorrow after the adrenaline wore off. Andy Reid did say, though, that the x-ray revealed nothing was broken, so great news there, but more testing would be done today. Before I get to the tests, it's worth noting that Mahomes' right ankle is what actually got rolled up on. The ankle he tweaked earlier on this season against the Raiders was actually his left. So it's not a re-aggravation of the same ankle, but it is his plant foot, the foot a QB uses to drive off of when throwing passes. So that's probably the least favorite of the two to kind of tweak if you're a quarterback. Andy Reid shared that Mahomes did want to go back out there though, and I think he would have if the game was actually closer. But being up 14 points over halfway through the fourth quarter, they all made the decision for Carson Wentz to finish things out. Now, the initial reports around Mahomes' ankle was that he suffered a high ankle sprain, with Ian Rappaport confirming today that it's technically being labeled as a mild high ankle sprain following tests. He's going to be considered week to week at this point in time, and obviously what makes things so tough here is that the Chiefs have 2 games in a span of 5 days apart. So you have Saturday against the Texans, then you have Wednesday, which is Christmas, against the Steelers, and that's the final 2 of 3 games that the Chiefs play in an 11-day span. So we shall see what they decide to do this week regarding Mahomes. If you ask me, maybe he does end up sitting against the Texans. Then you rest him up to play against the Steelers. But if you're Patrick Mahomes, you're going to want to be out there and not sitting on the bench. So we shall see how that actually ends up playing out as the week goes on. Now, for what it's worth, Ian Rappaport did follow up a bit after his initial report, saying that the Chiefs will know more as the practice week rolls on. And there is a chance that he does practice this week. With him being week to week, his status for Saturday is currently in doubt. A source did say to Ian Rappaport, though, that, quote, he will be fine long-term. And I'm glad there won't be any long-term issues. It's kind of implied with a mild high ankle sprain that it's not that severe, but these can linger and get worse without proper rest, especially if you re-aggravate it. So I think if this was just like a normal stretch of rest between games, like a Sunday game to a Sunday game, followed by a Sunday game, we may not even have to debate whether or not Mahomes misses time. However, starting Wentz could be a likely scenario that plays out, which is something that we will have to monitor this week. Now, I will say, Mahomes is going to want to play. If at all possible, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, spoke on 96.5 The Fan today with Carrington Harrison on the drive and said, hey, he wants to play. It's important for the team to lock up the 1 seed, so he's only going to sit, basically, if they will not let him play. Obviously, if he's not healthy enough to go, they're going to play Wentz, but Mahomes wants to help the team lock up the 1 seed. If you can lock up the 1 seed, you can then rest players and get them right and healthy at the right time, which is for the playoff run. Now, something else we will need to monitor this week is, will wide receiver Hollywood Brown be back and playing against the Texans, regardless of who's throwing him the ball? Because his practice window to return from IR opened up last Friday. Well, in order to bring him back, for him to play, you've got to make room for him on the roster, and they did appear to do that. Talking about the Chiefs, made room for him today when they actually waived veteran running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their former first-round draft pick. This was actually announced by CEH himself in a way when he took to his X account to say goodbye. He said this, quote, love you, KC, a family I didn't know I needed. Y'all make a kid from Baton Rouge's dreams come true. The Chiefs Kingdom, it's all love, and the support I had in troubling times will forever be unmatched from you guys. With love, Clydro. And he ended it all with a peace sign, basically saying, I'm out. Well, the Chiefs announced shortly after this that he had indeed been waived, and if CEH clears waivers, he'll be free to sign with any team as a free agent. I mean, it makes sense talking about the Chiefs actually waiving Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's been a healthy scratch for the last couple of months after he was brought back from the NFI list, and the running back room is full. They have Pacheco and Kareem Hunt as a 1-2 punch, Samaje Perine for third downs and in the red zone, key situations on passing downs, basically. And then you have Carson Steele as the running back fullback hybrid, and he's a guy that you can use or call on if injuries do hit the room during a game. So you don't really need 5 running backs on the roster, especially if one of them is not going to dress out at all. It's merely a business decision. I'm sure they would love to have him stay, But again, healthy scratch for about 2 months. You need to make room for Hollywood Brown. At least that's my best guess for why they waived him. CEH gone, Hollywood Brown in and back on the roster. And I truly hope the former first-round pick catches on somewhere else if he thinks he's healthy enough from a mental health standpoint to keep playing in the NFL. With all that being said, make sure to wish Clyde well in the comments, but also let me know your thoughts on Andy Reid and company seemingly abandoning the run game when up multiple scores. Do you agree with that decision, or do you think they let Mahomes down a bit out there as he was getting pressured and hit left and right, yet continuing to drop back and throw pass after pass? Let me know either way in the comments down below, and until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those